Hello! I've always got one or two of these little welding gas bottles kicking around from the MIG welder, and I always think they're so strongly made and well put together. It's a shame to just chuck them in the scrap, but they must be useful for something. And then the idea occurred to me that I could make a little mobile tyre inflator, because I've got a ride-on mower and trailer and various other bits with pneumatic tyres on, and quite often, you know, especially after winter, maybe we'll come back to the mower and it'll have a puncture, and that in of itself isn't too much of an issue. But if the mower's parked somewhere nowhere near the compressor, and you just need to get air in it to get it somewhere so it can be worked on, that's different from the place it's stored, then I need something to do that job. So I thought I could mod one of these bottles. I bought some fittings and a hose, and I've got a bit of a plan in my head about how I'm going to do it. And yeah, should give me enough to hopefully, you know, blow up a tyre from completely flat on a mower, because it's quite a small tyre. But I'll do it, and we'll do a test and see how much air it can actually hold. So that's the plan. I've already cleaned up the top of the cylinder and taken out the original fitting, which I had to drill out in the end because it was so well glued in with thread lock. And I've drilled a hole through at the pilot drill diameter for a 1/4 inch BSP tap, which I've bought. So I'm just going to put that thread in. 1/4 inch BSP male to male adapter there, to tape it on this side to straight or parallel thread on this side. So I'll just put some PTFE tape on that and then screw that in to the bottle. I'm going to use this ball valve, so when the cylinder's charged I can shut it off, and it shouldn't leak in theory through the tyre inflator. Okay, well that's all together. I've bought this hose that's got 2 male ends on it, for charging the tank, so I can do it straight from the compressor, so I'll do that now. To give it a test, I've let this tyre down completely, and it's only the rigidity of the tyre and the lack of weight on it that's holding it up there. You can see it doesn't really go down anymore. So I put the valve back in, and I've charged up the cylinder to 90 psi. So we'll see how well it does. Well, it hasn't pumped it up all the way, but that would give you enough to move the machine on, and even if you have to move it a couple of times, charge it a couple of times with this, it's better than the alternative of driving on a completely flat tyre and muddering an inner tube or a valve or something. So I'll give it another charge and see how many times it takes to get up to a reasonable pressure. Well, that's got the tyre to 20 psi, which is plenty in there. So that was 3 charges of the tank, but on the third one I depleted the compressor enough that it kicked in, and so instead of 90 psi it was 120 psi that went in there. So yeah, perhaps I could have done it on two tankfuls if it was 120 psi at a time, but I mean, as a sort of get you out of trouble thing, I'm not going to use it all the time. It's just for, you know, the odd use. I think it'll do the job, so I'd say that was successful.